My dear aspirants, I hope you are doing alright. Today at Mart Tutorials, we'll be starting with our crash course of NDA. I would be undertaking economics and ensure that the most important topics and the question, wherever the questions come from, those topics are covered very effectively so that you find it very useful in your exam period preparation. As exams are very close to you, I'll ensure that we are effective and our plan is as per your requirement. Before starting, I like to quote Director of Mart Tutorials, Mr. Pankaj Bhatt. He has very well said. He says, "We young people, whatever we want, we can aspire. Whatever we aspire, we can get it. The only requirement is that we would have to earn it." So, my friends, let's earn today what we aspire for. Joining National Defense Academy. So, let's study economics and earn what we desire for. So, we'll start with economics. First, a basic introduction. What is economy? What are the types of economy? What is the difference between economy and economics? And we have been observing question in regards to types of economy particularly. So we'll understand the differences, the concept, and then we'll dwell into different types of economy. So let's start with what is economy? What is the difference between economy and economics? So let me give you the difference. This difference would help you understand what distinguishes economy from economics. At the same time, you will also realize what is it. See, my dear friends, you see, when you see economy, we define economy with the help of this keywords: consumption, production, distribution of goods and services in a specific region or a country. What do you mean by that? Let's say we'll take example of India and China. Today we observe that our country produces a lot of services. We know that IT city Bangalore is very famous for exporting services to USA and other Western countries, right? At the same time, what does China exports? China exports goods like electronics and others. They produce a lot of things. So we see, when we see Indian economy, we either say that our economy, we produce, what do we produce? We produce services, and we all very well know that we also produce agriculture goods. So it could be defined as our economy is an economy wherein we see production of agriculture goods and also also services. While in case of China, we'll say it's an export based economy or production based economy. They produce a lot of things, right? So that's how you define economy of a country. What do the region or a country produces? What do they consume? What are they distributing? Obviously, all these three things are related, interrelated. So goods and services produced, consumed, and distributed in a region defines the economy of the region. Right? When we talk about economics, see, right now we are studying economics, not economy, right? Because economics, see, the keywords would be investigation or study of how people, society distribute resources to meet their aspiration and requirements. See, we'll study what kind of goods are produced in the country, why they are being produced, in what amount they would be produced. For example, see, Holi is approaching, right? So, an economist, a very easy example to understand, definitely an economist would be doing far more important things, but just to relate, see, Holi is approaching, an economist would be effectively able, he would be able to tell you कि भाई अब होली पास में आ रही है, so what would be the requirement of the market and how much would be the requirement of the market. अगर आपको होली से रिलेटेड सामान चाहिए तो कितना चाहिए, किस रीजन में कितना चाहिए, राइट? सो ऑल दिस थिंग्स वी स्टडी एनालाइज in the subject of economics. Let's move ahead further. Obviously, when you are undertaking economics, whenever there is an economy, you will see there is buying, selling, trade, investment, and employment. If the economy of a country is booming, is doing good, you see a lot of buying and selling is happening, right? A lot of trade is happening, a lot of investment is happening, a lot of employment is being created. For example, people appreciate Indian economy. We see that there is no recession in our economy. So what do we observe? We observe that a lot of investments are coming into our economy. We observe that a lot of buying, selling of the things are happening in our economy. Employment is also, you see different kind of sectors are opening up to employment. So employment is also coming up. When we talk about economics, it involves prediction of the future economic trends, explaining economic occurrences using a variety of models, framework, and theories. So, in economics, we have some theories, we have some models, we have some systems which have been made through which you can analyze क्या होने वाला है, what is expected, what would be produced, what would be sold, what would be consumed, all these things, right? When we talk about economy can be classified into different sectors. As I have given some examples, agriculture sector, industry, services, right? And all these sectors, we see they have their own uniquenesses. For example, what do we observe in agriculture sector? We observe that you need a lot of land, right? While when you talk about services sector, you need a lot of employees who are trained. You need skilled employees, right? When we move ahead further, we see economics being classified into macroeconomics and microeconomics, international economics, development economics, behavioral economics. So when we talk about all these types of economies, we see that they can be classified into macroeconomics, microeconomics, international economics. We'll definitely delve into the details of it. For now, you can understand that, let's say you are studying science, right? While you are studying science, you can further distinguish or divide it into physics, chemistry, mathematics. The same way, economics can also be further divided into macroeconomics, microeconomics. What do we study in it? I'll tell you definitely in the next slide. Let's move ahead further. We see that vital role of well-being of a region of people determines the standard of living, employment, opportunity, ability to meet the basics of the needs. See, when there is good economy in a country, you'll see the living standards would be improving. You'll see that employment opportunity would be getting better and better each day, and the people would be able to meet the requirements. Have you heard that while we got our independence in 1947, we had very serious challenges in regards to our economy. People were not having good living standards. People were dying because of very minor diseases today, which are very much curable. People were not able to sustain their families, they were not able to feed them properly. But don't you think that with improvement in our economy, the living standards of the people have improved? Employment opportunities are improved. See, when we got independence, we only knew one or two major employments. The most popular one was farming, right? But today we see engineers, doctors, different kind of software engineers, and that's how when economy grows, you see different kind of employment opportunities coming up. Ability to meet the basic needs, right? As I said earlier, people used to die just because they didn't had food, but today that's not the problem. We are able to meet our basic needs easily because the economy is doing good. While when we talk about economics, if we have this thing taken care of, what we'll observe, will be able to evaluate the cost and benefits of different policies, can help us to understand the allocation of the resource efficiency and equitable way possible. See, when you have good economics, when you have people who understand economics, who have greater understanding, depth of the subject, they would be able to analyze whatever is going on in our country effectively. Let's say government of India comes up with a policy. That policy is good, bad, or whether it needs an improvement. A good economist or a team of good economists would be able to come up with good suggestions. The suggestions would in turn would lead to success of that policy, right? So if we have good economics, we see that better analysis, better deliverance, right? Whatever the policy is coming up, it is delivered in a better manner. So let's move ahead further, understanding the difference between macro and micro economics. So what do we observe in macroeconomics? And what do we observe in microeconomics? Macroeconomics, we see GDP, inflation, employment, unemployment, aggregate demand, capacity of economy. See, again, in order to understand it better, we'll take the differences and we'll understand the differences, and easily we'll be able to understand what are the difference between macro and microeconomics. See, when we talk about macroeconomics, it deals with economy as a whole, right? See, we have seen earlier few examples. Macroeconomics, इसमें you'll see GDP, inflation, employment, aggregate demand. We'll take one example, GDP. As I said, macroeconomics deals with economy as a whole. Okay. So ऐसा होता है क्या किसी फैमिली की जीडीपी होती है? नो ना. GDP is for a region or a bigger economy. Let's say India as a whole, let's say Madhya Pradesh as a whole, let's say Delhi as a whole, right? So bigger region. So when we talk about macroeconomics, we deal with economy as a whole. While let's take other example, market. Market is an example of microeconomics, deals with individual unit of the economy within economy. Tell me, the market in Tamil Nadu, wouldn't it be different from a market in, let's say, Uttar Pradesh? Uttar Pradesh produces a lot of wheat, Punjab produces a lot of wheat, Madhya Pradesh produces a lot of wheat. But when we go to southern states, they produce a lot of rice. So the market or the mandi, when you go to in Tamil Nadu, we'll see that different products are being sold and purchased, right? While this case is otherwise in case of Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, where the produce are different. So the subjects which we study under microeconomics, they are not for economy as a whole, a part of it, right? Will specifically focus on particular region or a smaller subset of the bigger economy. Okay, let's move it further. The examples are very clearly mentioned here. You can try to you should try to remember them. Macroeconomics, GDP, इन्फ्लेशन. इन्फ्लेशन जो होता है, कोई फैमिली में तो नहीं आता ना कि भाई हमारी फैमिली में इन्फ्लेशन बढ़ गया, राइट? हमारी सिटी में इन्फ्लेशन बढ़ गया या हमारे पर्टिकुलर गांव में इन्फ्लेशन बढ़ गया, नहीं. इट्स अ बिगर सब्जेक्ट, इट्स अ ब्रॉडर सब्जेक्ट, राइट? अगेन एम्प्लॉयमेंट अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट, भाई मेरे घर में तो बड़ा अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट, ऐसे नहीं होता ना. एम्प्लॉयमेंट इज अ बिगर फिनोमेना, इट्स अ मैक्रो फिनोमेना, राइट? एग्रीगेट डिमांड, अगेन जैसे मार्केट में सप्लाई होता है वैसे ही डिमांड होता है. तो एग्रीगेट डिमांड पूरे इंडिया में किस चीज की डिमांड है, राइट? कैपेसिटी ऑफ इकोनॉमी, भाई व्हेन यू आर स्टडीइंग द इकोनॉमी एज अ होल ऑफ अ कंट्री, you also study capacity of the economy. But when you talk about microeconomics, as I said, market अलग हो सकता है, right? Effects of the prices of goods and, see, let's take some two different states, right? Let's take one northeastern state and one state which has fairly higher per capita income. Let's take the यूनियन टेरिटरी ऑफ दिल्ली. ठीक है, जब दिल्ली में किसी चीज का प्राइस बढ़ेगा तो उसका इम्पैक्ट डिफरेंट होगा ना. व्हेन वी कंपेयर इट टू द नॉर्थ ईस्टर्न स्टेट, प्रोबेबली वहां पे पर कैपिटल इनकम लेस होगा, तो पीपल वुड बी अफेक्टेड बाय इट मोर, राइट? सो दीज सब्जेक्ट्स आर studied for a particular subset of the economy. So other examples are labor market, consumer behavior, supply of the good. This is for large scale, this is for small scale. Examines for national and international level, a bigger phenomena, right? While this is for local and regional level. When we talk about this part, consult with government policies that impacts the economy, right? Microeconomics is in regards to government policies, right? Government policies would determine what would be the GDP, inflation, right? Concerned with how individual economic agents make decisions and how market operates. Let's take one example for this. Let's take consumer behavior. Okay. Now, consumer behavior is under microeconomics, because whenever we talk about individual economic agents make decisions and how market operate. See, my consumer behavior would be different. Let's say people of my region would be having different consumer behavior. Let's say I am from a region where people believe in a lot of savings, while there could be a different region wherein people believe that investing the money which you have is good for the economy, it's good for your personal growth. So these aspects are particularly dependent upon the local agents, right? Economic agents which are individualistic in nature, right? This would vary from region to region, and that's why we study it under microeconomics. Here we study about the different sectors interaction, financial sectors, labor market, international trade sector. What do we study here? We study supply, demand, market structure, individual economic agents, right? The examples of macroeconomic, we study economic growth, fiscal policy, monetary policy, international trade, the aspects which involve the bigger aspects of the economy as a whole, the aspects of economy as a whole, right? Here what do we study? The aspects which doesn't involve economy as a whole. As I said, the market of some region can be different from the market of different region. So when we are studying market, let's say if I want to understand Madhya Pradesh, I would have to study the market of Madhya Pradesh. I cannot study market of Bihar and understand Madhya Pradesh. So this is very regionalistic phenomena. In this aspect of economy, we study the subset which involves our study. Here the examples are very simple. Consumer behavior. How does consumer behave? Production cost, market competition, labor economics. Okay. So let's further delve into it. As we get into different types of economy, we'll be able to understand these aspects further, and furthermore, we'll have more insight about them. What is capitalistic economy? See, as I told you, economics can be divided into micro and macroeconomics, right? The same way economy can also be further divided. First type of economy which we'll study today is capitalistic economy. See, before that, let me ask you, what kind of economy India is? Whether it's capitalistic economy, whether it is a socialistic economy, or whether it's a mixed economy. So let's understand this types of economy first, and then let's make a conclusion what kind of economy we are. So let's see what is capitalistic economy. So we'll use some keywords and try to understand them. The first keyword is private property. In a capitalistic economy, you'll see that there is private ownership. So I ask you, do we have private ownership in our country? The answer is yes, we have private ownership in our country. Private individuals can have big oil companies. Owners can have houses. Private individuals can purchase property. They can invest in different things and own them. Right? Free market. Free market is when the what would be produced, how much it would be produced, what would be consumed is dependent upon the market. The market determines what. Let's say I am a businessman, so I intend to make profit, right? But how would I make profit? I would produce the thing which the market is in need of. What if I make something which market doesn't need? It won't be sold. If it is not sold, I would not make profit. So here we observe that what would be produced, the goods and prices of goods and services produced are determined by the supply and demand of the competitive market. See, when it comes to prices, the idea of free market comes in. In the idea of free market, the prices are completely dependent upon demand and supply. If the demand is high, definitely I can increase the price little bit. I know that when I increase the price little bit, when demand is high, people would still buy them, right? So in the free market economy, the prices are determined by supply and demand in the competitive market, right? I'll give you one example. What if government of India tells you that if you produce a phone, you can only or you can sell it for only 10,000 rupees? Would it be a free market? No, it would not be a free market. Free market is when the prices are determined by the factors such as supply and demand in the market, right? Let's move ahead further. Profit motive. What is profit motive? Business is motivated by desires to earn profit. So whenever I indulge into business in a capitalistic economy, my objective is to generate profit. I will I will indulge into a market. I would indulge into a business when I realize that there is profit in this business. If I don't feel like, I would not indulge into that business. So in a way, the keyword profit motive shows that capitalistic economy is purely based upon the profit. It's not for social welfare. Social welfare can be done by different means, but when you indulge into a business, the idea is profit motive. Competition. See, is competition good or bad? It is good in the sense that we consumer get the best, right? Let's say there is only one toothpaste being sold in the country, only one toothpaste, right? But when there is competition, there would be innovation, right? People would ask that the producer would have innovations and efficiency. He would want to make sure that there is something new coming in so that people get attracted towards it, that the businessman is providing something which is required in the society, right? That is the one benefit of competition. Another, efficiency. He realizes that in order to compete in the market, I must have efficiency. If I can produce the same thing which I was producing for 100 rupees, if I can produce it for 80 rupees, I can make more profit, right? So competition is part of a capitalistic economy, and you see these are the benefits: innovation and efficiency. Let's move ahead further and discuss few other aspects of this kind of economy. So let's study other key aspects of capitalistic economy. Limited government intervention. See, the idea is government would interfere to the least. Government would not guide an entrepreneur that what he should produce, what he must invest into, what price he must ensure, what price he must keep for his product. So the idea is government's role is limited. Regulating the market and protecting the private property. Government would also only interfere into very crucial aspects. For example, protecting the private property. For example, government would ensure that the entrepreneur, whatever the property he owns, is provided with security. The police, the law and order is good, right? Regulations in the market are fair. For example, there is, let's say, we'll take an example in India. What if Chinese companies start dumping in our country? Dumping is basically when you send a lot of goods to another country at far cheaper price. Probably you are bearing loss on it. What would be the effect on the local market? The local market would be debilitated by this. It would be seriously affected by it. So what would government do? Government would come up with anti-dumping duty. So government would ensure that these products which are coming at very low price, which are irrationally low, government would ensure duty on it, and the price of these goods would go up, protecting the local market, protecting the local economy, right? So these are the aspects government indulge into: protecting the private property, limited regulations of the market as per the requirement. Consumer is sovereign. The idea is that consumer has the power to influence the market. Let's say today's trend is that I am wearing sport shoes. So now the market would be I along with the youth, everybody is wearing sport shoes. Fine. So the market would have to produce sport shoes so that these sport shoes are sold to the people who are looking for them. Right. Let's say that tomorrow the trend changes. Right. People now don't believe in sport shoes. They all wear all this. Let's say they are wearing all Oxford style shoes. right? So now the companies would have to produce Oxford style shoes, right? So that's how it works. The consumer is sovereign. Consumer has the power to decide where the market would be going through their purchasing power. Let's say, do you think was it possible around 30-40 years back to sell Gucci bags in India at the scale which they are being sold today? No, it was not possible because the purchasing power of the consumer was not that much. So that's where Bata comes in. Let's go ahead. Division of labor, guys. I'll give you an example here. Let's take the example of Cuba. I recently saw a documentary on YouTube wherein it was shown that in Cuba there is a system which is very different from this system. There is socialism there. So what happens there is that government determines कि कौन क्या करेगा. Let's say I am also in the economy. There are 2 4 people and there are other people in the economy as well. So the government would be deciding what labor I would be doing today. So let's say I am driving taxi today. Let's say some other person is working in a restaurant today. So but everybody would be giving a would be given a specific amount of money. So now what would happen is that the news was that the people are bribing the government officials so that they can get the job of taxi driver. Because when you are driving taxi, you are getting incentives in the form of tips, right? So the idea is there is no division of labor. Everybody can do any job as government asks, as required by the government. But in capitalistic economy, it's not such. There is clear division of labor. See, workers specialize in specific tasks, increase their efficiency and productivity. See, when I have full freedom to determine what I would be learning, what I would be pursuing in my professional career, so I'll get better into it by studying, by taking exposures, by undertaking different courses, and this exposures will make me a better professional. I would become more efficient. I would have higher productivity when compared to any other person, right? But it's not such in the different kind of economy which we'll study further. So the idea is division of labor is clear and which helps in if productivity and efficiency. So let's move ahead further. So now we'll study socialistic economy, guys. See, the idea is in socialistic economy, there is no concept of private property. That is, I don't own anything. Everything is owned by people as a whole, right? So how do people as a whole own a property? Let's say there is coal mine in India. Fine. So now Adani, Reliance cannot own that coal mine. Fine. But who owns it? The people as a whole own it. Okay. But how would let's say there are so many people in our country, how would this so many people would have ownership over that particular coal mine? So therein this government comes in. So there is a government. So this government ensures that there is no private ownership. Everything is owned by people. In a way, the government. Okay. So the government is at the top. It makes the decisions. What is to be done? What decisions are to be made? What job a person would be doing? What kind of market will be having? For example, this government would also interfere in the production, distribution, and consumption. The government would determine that what would be produced in our country. So let's take some example and understand it. So there is idea of collective ownership. There is nothing which is owned by private individuals. Everything is owned collectively by people. Basically the resources of the country have are under the ownership of all the people. Central planning. The idea of central planning is the decisions are made by central planning authority rather than the market forces and supply demand. So we studied in capitalistic economy that the decisions, what to be produced, what to be consumed, what to be distributed, are determined based on the demand and supply in the market. But here government would do it. Government would ensure that, let's say, government thinks that if we have khadi clothes, it would lead to more benefits to the farmers. And government thinks that right now benefiting farmers is important because it would lead to per capita income increase. In order to do this, what would government do? Government would ensure that such policies are brought in where people consume more and more khadi. Khadi clothes are cheap. Khadi clothes are more they're available in more amount in the market. Probably the government can also ban other clothing so that khadi is prevalent. So this is how socialistic system works. Government has a lot of power. The idea of central planning. Basically, the decisions are made at center and then they trickle down, taking the effect on the ground. Let's move ahead further. Price control. As I gave you an example ahead, the government is also indulging into price control rather than the market determining it. We saw in capitalistic economy the prices are controlled by the market demand and supply, but here the government interferes into it. State control. Government plays central role in regulating and controlling economic activities. As we have taken other multiple examples, the government is very much at the core of the economy. But what is at the core of capitalistic economy? The profit motive. People would indulge into businesses for the profit. But what government is trying to do here? Government is trying to make calls in regards to economic regulation and controlling of the economy so that the greater good is served. That is debatable whether the greater good is served or not, but the idea is this, the definition is this. Equitable distribution of resources. As I said, the idea is greater good so that most of the people, majority of the people are benefited. The goal is to create equal distribution of wealth and resources amongst all the members of the society. The idea is when you have private ownership, let's say definitely, um, I can say that people in Adani family or the people who basically are part of the Adani group would be having better entrepreneurship or better capabilities in regards to businesses, right? Than a lot of people in other people in India, right? So they would be doing better business and they'll go on becoming richer and richer. While there would be people who wouldn't have got proper education, proper exposure, and in turn they are not capable enough to do that kind of business, right? So they'll stay poor. What does this kind of government tries to do? Equal distribution of resources. So it would ensure that economy is such, production is such, distribution is such, consumption is such that greater good is done, the wealth is distributed among people equally. Minimal competition. Exactly, yes. Socialistic economies place little and no emphasis on competition. The idea is socialist economy has objectives very clear. They are looking for greater good. So when you are looking for greater good, you are not looking for attracting the consumers. The idea is to serve the maximum number of consumers in a decent manner possible. So there is no innovation coming up, there is no efficiency coming up. I'll give you an example. There is this incident from China wherein there used to be proper socialist system working in earlier decades. So the idea was that when some farmers which are working in apple orchard, so they'll pick up apples. So the job of one worker is to pick up apples and collect in a basket. Fine. So he is doing that. And another worker's job is to remove the bad apples from the basket. So the person who is picking or plucking the apples can also remove the bad apples, right? But as there is clear division of labor, everybody assigned with different jobs, and there is no motive, there is no profit motive, there is no incentive to the labor who is doing extra job. This lead to some bad apples being left in the basket and in turn affecting the overall productivity. So see how Whole cycle comes to the point wherein we observe that efficiency is low in socialist systems. The emphasis on competition is very low. Hence, we realize that socialistic economy has its own benefits, capitalistic economies have its own benefits. For now, we must understand today we need to take the best out of both the systems. And that's where the question comes in. I asked you, right? What kind of economy India has? So we have mixed economy. We take best of both the economies and run our country. So let's move ahead and understand the kind of economy we are. As I said, the answer is mixed economy for the kind of economy India is. So do we have private property? Yes, we have private property. Individuals and businesses are allowed to own property, assets, and make decisions about how to use them, right? I have a house, I can sell it, I can purchase further more houses if I have money, right? That's how it works. Free market. Yes, there is free market. Government doesn't tell me. Let's say if I make, let's say tomorrow I publish a book on economics. So government would not tell me that इसका price क्या रखना है. You should keep price low such that everybody can read it. That is my call, right? The amount of investment or the amount of money I had to invest into it, that would determine for me that what would be the price of it. Government would not interfere in it. Further, market would also, right? Let's say I published a book. It's the first book of mine. People have no idea about what kind of work I have done, and the price is too much. People won't purchase it, right? They won't give it a try. So once I would ensure that in regards to demand and supply, determining the price of and the quantity which I'll be producing. So there is this free market. It allows me to determine what should be the price, what should be the demands, what should be the price which I should keep for my book, also the quantity which I should be supplying it to the market. Government regulation. Government regulates certain industries and economic activities to ensure that fair competition, protect consumers, and promotes public welfare. See, as I told you, the best of both, right? So government would definitely have regulations on the economy. Government would definitely have regulations. See, the government would try to protect the consumer. Public welfare, as I said, socialist mein, the idea is to have greater good. Government would try to do it, but at the same time ensuring that the economy is not affected. Right? Government would be regulating certain industries. Tell me, the prices of petrol are controlled by whom? The market, demand supply, or the government? Right? Government, right? So if it had been a capitalistic economy, it would not had been the case. जो प्राइजेस होंगे वो कौन डिटरमाइन करता, वो डिटरमाइन करती गवर्नमेंट, सॉरी कंज्यूमर्स, राइट? बट इन आवर कंट्री वी हैव बोथ काइंड ऑफ सिस्टम. लेट्स से आप कुछ प्रोड्यूस कर रहे हो, जैसे आप मोबाइल बना रहे हो इंडिया में, तो मोबाइल्स जब आप इंडिया में बनाओगे, व्हेन यू प्रोड्यूस मोबाइल्स इन आवर कंट्री, यू कैन चूज वॉट एवर प्राइस यू वांट फॉर योर फोन. शर्त यही है कि मार्केट में फिर वो बिकना चाहिए, राइट? द डिमांड एंड सप्लाई शुड बी सच इन द मार्केट दैट योर प्राइस इज अप्रोप्रिएट. बट व्हेन इट कम्स टू पेट्रोल, गवर्नमेंट तो प्राइस कंट्रोल कर रही है, राइट? सो गवर्नमेंट इज रेगुलेटिंग सम सेक्टर्स ऑफ द इकोनॉमी. Government would ensure that there is a fair competition, right? See, profit motive is good, but is it good to provide an environment in a country wherein new entrepreneurs come in, not just the old one, the big companies like Tata, Birla, Adani, Ambani, they don't allow anybody to come into the market as entrepreneurs. That would be wrong, right? So in mixed economy, government would provide such environment that fair competition is provided in the economy, so that if new player also want to come in, they can also come in. Let's move ahead further. Public goods and services. See, Tell me, if there is no profit in opening an hospital and serving people at cheap prices, there is a chance that people would avoid it in a capitalistic economy, right? But in a mixed economy, government would undertake these operations. These actions or activities which may not be very profitable in nature but are very essential to the country. See, if we don't have good health care, if in the COVID times government would not have stepped up, right, provided services, medical facilities to poor people of our country, would they have been surviving today? No, right? That's where mixed economies good part comes in. Public goods and services, government would provide some services which not every private individual would want to do it because it may not be very profitable in nature, but government will do it. Taxation and redistribution, government uses taxation and other policies to redistribute wealth, income, reduces inequality, promotes social welfare. See, you must be knowing about different policies schemes जो होती है ना, it's very important for NDA economics. स्कीम से रिलेटेड क्वेश्चंस आते हैं और गवर्नमेंट क्या करती है, जब गवर्नमेंट टैक्स कलेक्ट करती है तो गवर्नमेंट एंश्योर दैट schemes are such that the wealth is redistributed. You know that in our country there are a lot of poor, no doubt about it. How does government takes care of them? Government provides them free ration, right? When government provides them free ration, they have a certain extra income. The money, let's say they were about to spend 500 per month, 1000 rupees per month on these essentials. Now the government is providing them at very cheap price. So now they would be having 1000 rupees extra. They can use this 1000 rupees for further required items, right? So that's where government does redistribution of wealth, income, reduces inequality, promotes social welfare. So promote social welfare. अभी हमने recently we have seen that Vishwakarma scheme. In this, government is helping those people who want to start their own business and they're looking for the capital, and they must be from different backgrounds, they must be of different artistic capabilities, are different, let's say they would be having different trades. So government ensures that social welfare is promoted by taking taxation, and this taxation is used to redistribute the wealth. Isn't it good? Yes, it is good. Mixed ownership, there are business, you'll see. Tell me, mixed ownership का मतलब ये होगा कि there would be private ownership as well as government ownership. Do you know there are two kinds of oil companies? One are private, the other ones are government owned, public ones. Indian Oil Corporation, Bharat Petroleum Limited, right? There are other companies which are privately owned. You see, Reliance is also there, Acer is also there, Adani is also there. So there is mixed ownership. There are private individuals and government as an organization is also having ownership of companies. Some industries and businesses are owned and operated by government while others are privately owned and operated. So we see that there would be some businesses government would be owning, there would be some businesses private companies would be owning. Let's move ahead further. The question of economic planning. The government may engage in some level of economic planning, guide investment development in certain sectors, although typically less extensive than command economy. See, does government of India indulge into planning? Yes, it does. We have Niti Aayog, right? Niti Aayog makes policies, and those policies act as guiding principles for states and other administrative machinery. The idea is क्या planning होती है mixed economy में? Yes, there is planning in mixed economy, but it is completely up to the government. It's not mandatory, but in socialistic economy it is mandatory. The calls are made from the top and then they trickle down to the bottom into in the form of administrative changes or effect. Entrepreneurship होती है mixed economy? Yes, very much. Private individual businesses are allowed to innovate, take risks, and create new products and services. So this is very much evident. For example, let's take idea of India. India mein we have a lot of entrepreneurs coming up. Ashneer Grover, you must be knowing him very well, right? There are others. Just taking an example so that you can relate. So the idea is these are the three types of economy based on ownership and other aspects of it. Tomorrow we'll further continue with the idea of open and closed economy, and we'll continue with the other aspects of economy, and we'll complete this chapter. Thank you.